we're going to talk about the things about how to develop a marketing plan, and we'll get a little bit into some outlook and some different things. But so with that, first thing I'm going to tell you is everybody needs to develop your own marketing plan. I always used to tell this story. So up until this year, my stepdad and I farmed side by side each other, okay? And we did this, we actually had the same similar operations, but our marketing plans were completely different. And so I always tell people that, you know, even though you might know somebody that's doing something similar to what you want to do, don't try to carbon copy their marketing plan. You have to tailor make your marketing plan for what your resources, what your skills, and what your product is. The other thing that I always tell folks is you got to be very flexible in your marketing plans. Okay? I've been doing this goat thing for about roughly 10, 12 years, whatever, I've lost track now. And you think I have the same marketing plan that I had 10, 12 years ago? Mine changes almost on an annual basis. Okay, you have to reevaluate and look and see how things change, because again, when I first was selling goats, we were selling them for 90 cents a pound. I'm now selling them for $2.40 a pound. That changes things a bit, okay? Changes the way we do. So we're talking about developing one. A marketing plan is going to depend on the 3 W's, okay? The what, the when, and the where. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to go into what type of goat you intend to sell. And we're not, again, I'm not going to get into breeds. I told you this morning we're not going to get into breeds. I don't care what breed you're going to sell, but what type of goat are you going to sell and what market should you sell it at? What time of the year should we sell goats? Okay? When we got into doing these goat camps, and probably some of y'all have heard the same stuff, the marketing plan for most goat operations were centered around ethnic holidays, because we were all told that's when we needed to sell goats. That may not be the case. Okay, and also too, when we get into talking about the when, if y'all studied any ethnic holidays, I hate to tell you this, but they work on a lunar calendar. You know, July 4th is July 4th every year. Ramadan moves 2 weeks every year. When we started these goat camps, it was in September. Ramadan is in May. Hard to do a marketing plan when your target's moving 2 weeks. Where, and we've hit a little bit about that, the availability of goat markets. Where can you sell these goats at and stuff? So that's what we're going to hit on today. So let's start off with what type of goats. And again, I'm not going to get into the breed discussion with anybody, at least on camera anyway. So but we're going to talk. You know, when I talk about the type of goats, what I'm talking about is when we look at here, I got hit 4 bullet points: market or replacement. Are you going to sell market animals or are you going to sell replacement animals? Those are 2 different markets, 2 different time frames, 2 different production schedules. And so if you're going to sell market and replacements, you know, you need to have a plan for each of those, or both of them. Because see, market implies we're going to sell them at weaning. Because really a market animal, at least the market type animal that we seem to, they want to run here in Oklahoma, is that 50 to 60 pound goat, which generally we can get before that goat gets 6 months old. Some of us can do it quicker, some of us could take a little longer, but usually 6 months. So that's as long as we're going to own that goat. Replacement implies we're going to hold on to those animals for a lot longer time period. Okay, and that requires more money on our part. That means we're holding on, we're feeding them more. It requires a higher price point for us to gain profit. I should back up a little bit. I'm assuming when we're talking about marketing, develop market plans, you're wanting to make them profit. Okay, so let's go with that. So then if we get past market or replacement, let's go to size, 40 to 60 pounds. Okay, I've talked about that's market. What about this 80 to 100 pound market? There are times of the year that 80 to 100 pound goat is the best goat to sell. But when is that time of the year? And can I hit that time of the year with my production?
Later in the year.
It's kind of a moving target as well sometimes. And then is there a big enough of that? It's an ethnic group that moves that. Yeah, I can't pronounce them either.
You got to have a 2-week lead time to it, because the buyer's got to come in, pick the stuff up for them to get it to market.
It's like I said, it's a challenge, and these are things we have to consider. Then age, are we selling them at weaning time, or are we hold them 60 days? If I'm going to sell that 80 pound goat, that means I'm holding them more than 60 days. What's the average rate of gain on goats? Did anybody got an idea what the average rate of gain is? Brian, what's the average rate of gain on goats in the buck test?
0.23.
0.23 pounds per day. So you need 4 days to gain a pound. Okay, so, but that's something, and so if we're going to try to hit these bigger weights, we got to know how long. Sex, and some of y'all need to get your minds out of the gutters. Sex of the goats, bucks or wethers. Is there a price difference for bucks and wethers at the market? I heard yes. I don't have, and you are absolutely correct. And what I base this on is not, because it's not reported in the report, and the USDA market reports, they do not separate bucks and wethers. But all you got to do is go to a sale and watch. Bucks will bring less money. Now, it may only be 5-10 cents a pound, and on a 50-pound goat, that may not be worth $5. Okay, but I'm wanting all the money I can get. Also, too, if I don't castrate my bucks, you know, when them bucks get a certain age, they stop thinking about gaining weight and start thinking about riding everything, right? And we start losing weight. So bucks or wethers. Does or replacement does. Now, not every female born on your place deserves to have babies. Correct? Everybody agree? So if I'm going to sell those does are market does. I should treat them just like I treat the market wethers. But what about those that are replacements? So you see when I talk about the what, we got to figure out in our mind what we're going to sell. I use my farm as an example, and I don't use that as a beacon, shining example of what to do. Really, I tell folks I'm a shining example of what not to do. But we raise show goats, okay? So here in Oklahoma, the typical show goat needs to be born in April, May, or June, because our big shows are in the February and March of the following year. So, now, is every goat born on my place a show goat, worthy of the show ring? No, I'd be lucky to say if 10% of them are actually worthy of the show ring. So, I have an average of about 40 goats born a year. So, somewhere about 8 of them, maybe 20% of them are show worthy, maybe closer to 10. So I have 30 goats I have to do something else with. So I have a marketing plan for my show animals. I have a marketing plan for those other 30. Now of those 30 left, some of those are replacement females. They're good enough to have babies. They have the genetics. They're just not good enough to make the show ring. I have a marketing plan for those. Then I have a marketing plan for everything left over. So I have 3 marketing plans for my little 35 goat operation. Does that make everybody see what I'm saying? So when we talk about marketing plans, don't pigeonhole myself to just one type unless that's all you're going to do. And that's what you have to decide. So let's go from the what to the when. When are we going to sell our goats? And again, I've mentioned this before, and people all the time, talk about this, about hitting that ethnic holiday and hitting that high point in the market. And I tell people, don't be so much worried about that. I mean, we worry about that, but don't be such worried about that we lose sight of what our best production system is. So I asked this question of a bunch of cattle guys about 6 months ago. When is your marketing plan set into place? Okay? So your marketing plan is set into place really when you put that buck out with those does. Because that determines when that babies are being born and when they're ready. So in the goat business, we're looking at 5 months gestation, 93 months, let's say 4 months. So we got 8-9 months. Better than the cattle guys. Cattle guys, it's 18 months are out when they're making their decisions. So, but that's when our decisions are being made. And a lot of times, when do we think of marketing to our goats? When we've got them in the back of the truck heading to the market. That's when we think about marketing. So we have to match up. The best time to sell our goats is going to depend on maximizing your production schedule and your optimum marketing time. When to market your goats are somewhat determined by that production schedule. I said somewhat. It needs to be completely what, not somewhat. And there's, like I said, we need to consider that. So what I've got a little example. I'm a guy that likes to see examples. I don't like a lot of words and stuff. So what I hear is, like in my example here, I'm going to try to match our production with our marketing. So we've been told by OSU marketing genius, not me, that the best time, the high point in the market for goats is in March. Okay? So that's what we want to hit. So we back up 90 to 100 days. That means we're going to kid in late November and December. Now, for those of you not in the sunny state of California, here in Oklahoma, November, December is nasty and not a good time to kid. Okay? The other problem that we're going to have is from November, December to March, I don't have a whole lot of grass to eat. Matter of fact, I have no grass to eat unless I've got some cool season forage available, and y'all learn about that tomorrow. But generally, I don't have a lot of season available. And then, again, not the best time to kid. Mortality might be a problem. Okay, goats do not like to kid out in cold weather, and especially when you talk about Boer goats who like to get up and leave their babies after they've had them. So you got that going for us. So we back up 150 days. We're going to try to breed these, to get these goats in this time frame. We're going to have to breed in July. For those of you who don't know about the goat production or goat cycle, goats are short day breeders, which means they hate to breed in the summertime. So conception rates may not be the highest. Matter of fact, may not be very good at all. So if for us to hit this market, do you see the challenges we have? We got to breed in July. We're going to kid in November, December. And it may not have a very good growing rate, may have a higher cost as far as feed goes, but we hit the high point in the market. So that's example one. Let's go to example two. Now we've decided we're going to take the easy route. We're going to we're going to do the production schedule that's the simplest from the standpoint we're going to sell in August and September. Again, the marketing genius has told you that this is actually the downward time in the market, the low point in the market. We back up that 90 to 100 days. We're going to kid in May and June. May and June in Oklahoma is a great time to kid, okay? Except we may have to dodge a tornado or two, but other than that, we're fine. So no weather problems. From May and June to August, September, I've got plenty of summer grass because I've got all the summer browse and summer forages out there available. So I've got that to grow them on for the moms and babies. I back up 150 days. I'm going to breed in December. Not a trouble there. That's a short daytime length period. So breeding should not be a problem. So here I'm going to pick my easier route and get the easiest production schedule, but I'm going to take the lower prices for it. Now, I just show you this. This is the things that we should all consider when we try to come up with a plan. And what you've got to determine is how much time management, skills, whatever adjective and adverb you want to use, that you have and what you want to deal with. Okay? I work for OSU, which some people says 30 hours a week, some people say 60 hours a week, depending on who my boss is listening. Okay? I don't have a lot of time to fool with, doing some of the stuff. So easy might be work for me. If I'm semi-retired or, I can make more time, maybe this works best for me. So anyway, things to consider. So let's talk a little bit about seasonality. I just kind of talked some about it. Again, I'm going to throw up this ethnic holiday. And this is not every one of them. Not even close. Pages about this long. So we got Easter. They want a 30-pound goat. It's always in April, generally. 1 or 2 weeks off. So we got that. So that's something. Start of Ramadan. 60-pound optimum is what we're shooting for. In 2019, it's going to be May 15th. It's going to be May the 6th and 20th. It's going to be April 24th. And it's going to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. So if I'm trying to hit that, now it's not impossible because goats, we can change our goat breeding season a lot easier than we can in other species. But that means we have to change it. We have to keep up with that. And then we have to be able to hit that 60-pound optimum deal. I'm not going to pronounce these names, or I'm going to butcher them, but Eid al-Fitr, same as Ramadan. Again, it's moving. Eid al-Adha, 60 pounds, blemish free. Somebody asked me today if castration meant blemish. Yep. It does. So and here's the ear tags. We have to, when we sell them, we have to have Scrappies tags. So you have to sell them directly to them, or
They're they're
They come to
accommodating.
play.
they'll accommodate that because that's what I figured because we have to sell with ear tags. So, but if we're going to hit that market, we can't castrate anything.
Right.
So, Maharam, big wide range, again, a moving date. So, all I do is say, okay, this is fine if we want to try to use these ethnic holidays, but it may not match up with our production schedules. So, again, we got to understand the lunar calendar, how it works. Yes, sir.
The heavier stock on the halal market, the prices are higher than, and the larger animals sell better because the genre of that holiday is that they are to purchase an animal and distribute it to their friends. So the bigger animals make a premium.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's a lot on this markets that we don't fully understand. And not going to fully understand because they're not exactly trustworthy. You don't exactly just run out to the Muslim market and start selling to these guys.
I lived 3 years in a Muslim nation. So.
Yeah. So you understand a little bit better than the rest of us do. So let's talk a little bit about seasonality. And so what I have done is I create a seasonality chart. And all the seasonality chart is it just shows us the highs and lows on the average for goat prices over time. Okay. Now, when I show a cattle seasonal chart, I really like that chart from the standpoint I have 50 years of price data. Do you have any idea how many years of price data I have for goats here in the United States? About 1998 is when we started collecting. So we got a few more years than that. But really and truthfully from about 2004 on. So 14 years. So now, I have enough data to speak confidently about what I'm fixing to show you, but I wish I had more. So we're going to do an index form where the index basically means anything above 100 is above average for the time frame. Anything that's below it is below 100 is below average. And what these seasonality charts show us is the trends in the market throughout time. Okay, so this is San Angelo, Texas. This is a 40 to 60 pound kid. The red line represents the 100. And what this shows us is that the high price of the market, the high point in the market, typically in San Angelo, Texas, is in the spring, March. February, March, April. 90 days. That's our high point in the market. It starts to fall off after the April, comes down in here to the low part of the market, August, September usually being the low point, and then tends to come back up. Okay? Now, I used to show the holidays on this thing, put the holidays on here, and when the holidays move, it doesn't help. But there's another explanation for this too, if you'll think about it. How many kids, and that's a tough thing to say, we're talking about selling kids, because he's recording this, and if it goes in the wrong spot, I'm getting a call from the FBI. But how many kids do you think are available for sale here in February, March, and April? Not many. Because again, we're short day breeders, okay? So the supply of goats in that time frame is short. Demand may be a little high or higher. So that's when supply is short, demand is high, we have higher prices. Now, we come down here to September, October. How many goats do you think are for sale, kid goats are for sale in this time frame? A bunch. Now, luckily, you said the market, when we first started this, the Ramadan and all those markets were in the fall, but they're not there anymore. But this does seem to keep our prices still propped up. But so we don't have as much goat, or we have more goats for sale in the fall, so that causes prices to be a little lower. So there's other things to explain it besides the ethnic markets. So we look at 60, 80 pound kids, it shows pretty much the same thing. The one thing I do like about goats, when I deal with the cattle guys, I have to deal with 400 pounds to 900 pound calves. And there's different markets for each one of them. Not very much considered. We're dealing 40 to 80 pound kids, roughly. San Angelo does sell 20 to 40 pound kids, but that market is sporadic. And then they sell over 80 as well, but that market is fairly sporadic. These two markets, there's usually goats for sale every week in these two markets. Wakers. Okay. I told you San Angelo's the biggest. New Holland, Pennsylvania is the second largest. Now, for my friends in Tennessee who want to argue with me and tell me that Columbia, Tennessee is the second largest, okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Does Perry still have one?
Perry's Market is in Pawnee right now.
Is what?
They moved it to Pawnee after the barn burned down. So, but New Holland, Pennsylvania is the second largest reported one. They do sell 20 to 40 pound kids on a regular basis, and then 40 to 60 pound kids. But notice the difference. Okay, it's still higher in the spring and lower than the fall, and it's not near as smooth as what the San Angelo. But I'll have to tell people too, the problem with the New Holland market is that they do not sell goats by the pound, they sell goats by the head. And so when the price reporter reports these prices, he's estimating the weight. So that's the reason why this market's it's not as smooth. But it still shows a picture, high in the spring, low in the fall. The 40, 60 pound kids follow a similar market. So New Holland, Pennsylvania, similar, but now one thing I don't think, nope, I didn't put them. Look at Texas. When I go back to Texas, Texas prices are 10% higher in the spring, okay, and 12% lower in the fall. When we go to New Holland, not quite there, but see the difference here, 5%. So the price swings in New Holland is not near as significant as the price swings in San Angelo. I tell you that to let you know, for those of you who do not live here in Oklahoma and you're wondering why you're listening to a talk about Oklahoma markets or Texas markets, in your area, you need to figure out what the market is in your area and how the price moves. It could be slightly different. Regional differences do exist. Now, I will probably argue that this, because I do have the information on Tennessee's. There has a similar price pattern as well. So I think the price pattern is going to be there. The volatility may not be the same. Okay.
What does it cost to transport 10 head?
It depends on what you're driving. You're driving a brand new pickup truck, or
if you pay somebody.
It's usually $3 a mile.
Okay.
So
for 1 head or 10 head?
It doesn't matter.
11. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what they're loaded. The animal transports vary by price to price, depending on what they're transporting. Yes, sir.
Where do you find these
markets? You can go to USDA, the ams.usda.gov. That's the marketing, and goats, and they'll have goat markets that are reported by state. Now, you may not have one in your state. Now, I haven't looked in California, right? I haven't looked at California. I mean, I could tomorrow and let you know. But I did a talk in Wisconsin. There are no reported markets in Wisconsin. The closest one was in Iowa. So sometimes you have to use those markets. But see, here in Oklahoma, we only have one market that's reported, and it burned down 6 months ago. And so now it's moved, and it's only every other week too. So ams.usda.gov. I'm going off memory. I hope that's right, Brian. So let's talk about today's market. A little market outlook in here. Okay. And I showed this. One thing that's real evident in this market outlook talk I'm doing is the seasonal price pattern is readily available. Okay. It's high in the fall, high in the spring, low in the fall. The 5-year average price. And that's what the 5-year average is, 2013 to 2017. The 5-year average price for our goats, $2.49 a pound. Now, I've done this chart for several years. I go back several years. I can show this. And what we've done the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years is every year we've been above that 5-year average and kind of setting new records. We may have hit the top of that right now, but so that's what we're doing. Because in 2016, that average price was $263. 2017 was $275. Hang on. Per hundredweight, yes, yeah, per hundredweight. Now 2018 up until August, it was $285. So what we see here in this price, little deal, 2017, good year. We saw prices well above $3 a pound in South Texas, drop down to where about $2.20 a pound, and then come back up. 2018's followed similar pattern, not maybe as high, but actually average higher starting about April down into this, and we're sitting at about. Actually, the market didn't in September and October didn't drop that as hard. It probably stopped right here and starting to come back up now. Because like I said, I sold goats the other day for $2.40 a pound here in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's price is going to be different from San Angelo just because area differences. So we're seeing really good prices. So I show this to tell people the prices here in the goat market are really good. When you do a budget and you put in prices, just put the average price of $2.50 a pound. It's really tough to not pencil a profit.
2014, 15, they were giving them away.
No, they wouldn't give them. They still over $2 a pound.
Well, I mean, but you've got a trend there going 263, 285, so your average price, projected price should be more 275, 280, right?
No, so in 2014, the average price was about $2.50. We've seen
I saw them in 2018 and 19 with the trend up. That's my-
yeah, the trend is we're actually it's starting to flatten out. That's what I'm telling you now. I don't think we're going to see this continue to keep going up and up. But again, those prices are still pretty good. Yes, sir.
A couple of things. So most of your charts supported supply versus demand,
Mm-hmm.
and your price stability for the east was closer, was narrower. But my question is would you drive the charts up by having greater supply, or is that totally a number that's going to stay in the range where it's at, even if you had more supply, or would it actually drive it down? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it. If we increase supply, would the prices
Would you see the prices go up?
But the market,
Well, I'm going to get to an import chart here in a second and kind of show you that we could actually we're importing a bunch of head too.
Okay.
So
There's a variable.
this is variable. So, but you're right. Consider if we do increase the supply prices, that could actually depress
Would you
prices.
sell more, or would the price go down?
I still think we could probably sell more. The issue we're running into is how cheap Australia can import the meat to us.
Is it
It's still.
imports that drive that?
Oh yeah, it's
Is it really?
yeah.
I didn't see the numbers yet, so.
It, do what now? Okay, hang on, one at a time. Let him go first, and then okay, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I was just saying they ought to impose a tariff on goat.
Yeah, fair tariff. Nobody wins tariff battles. I know. Have you ever seen Australian goat meat for sale in the market?
Frozen.
It all comes in frozen. There's no fresh come in. But Winco and Moore, we shopped there once or twice. There's 2-pound bag of frozen goat cubes for $15. I mean, I'm going over here and buy the steak. I'm not buying goat cubes for $7.50 a pound. And what was you wanting to say?
Just the quality difference.
Yeah.
Like you just said, the biggest difference is there's plenty of room for us to improve, expand on our market, because we can run it out of business easy with quality product.
My counterparts on the East Coast who understand the Muslim markets better than I do, or the ethnic markets, I shouldn't say Muslims only, they tell me that these ethnic groups prefer fresh, killed meat, not the frozen carcasses we're getting in. So we have that, again, that tells us there's room to expand. But if we expand, can we keep this $2.50 price?
well, the market's expanding. Another factor you have to look at is arbitrage. If you've got a strong dollar, it costs them a
Right.
lot more bringing it in, so.
But what's going to help us now is Australia's in a heck of a drought, so they don't have any more goats to send to us. So that helps us too.
What's the import, what's the Australian sale price?
I couldn't tell you what the price of it is.
If we'd add those 700,000 that are missing, and who knows what it'd be.
When we look at 60 to 80 pounds, similar story. You see there's the average price, 5-year average is $237. We're breaking that record every year. I show you this to just kind of tell you the prices have been good for a long time. Okay, and I'm thinking of another talk where I have all the goat inventory numbers and stuff like that. But when you look at goat inventory numbers, we've seen 5 good years of prices, and our inventory numbers have stayed the same. We're still at 2.1 million head. So the market's given the signal to expand. It's just the industry hadn't expanded.
That's a really good indicator when it stays stable over a long time.
It is, and I get asked that question: why are we not expanding? And I don't have an answer for it, other than the market is relatively new because most producers that are getting into this, and we're seeing a lot of getting in and getting out too. So, but I don't know if it's just relatively new. People may not believe that market's there, because we did get up to 2.6 million at one point in time in 08, but now 09, 10, 11, 12, 13 were drought years, and the biggest state, the biggest one as far as meat goat numbers go, is Texas. They had when I started doing these talks, they had 1 million head by themselves. They're down to 780,000. So and Texas, and my counterparts in Texas tell me they're not going to expand anytime soon. So yes, sir.
Just over right where I live, just locally within those two counties, I know of probably 8 different goat farms, goat ranches that have all shut down in the last year.
And I know, I probably know 10 times that many that I'd like to really kind of take a survey of all the people that have, make sure I'm in the right spot, of all the people who have come to goat camp and then got out. Because I'll be honest with you, a lot of people get in this thinking it's easy and quick and easy money. There's nothing in agriculture easy. If it's I use this phrase with my children all the time. If it was easy, everybody would be doing this. And so they get in, they have a parasite problem, they don't know how to manage it, they lose half the herd, they get out. I see that and I do think the new big thing though coming in the new, and it's not going to be a fad, I think it'll stay too, is hair sheep are going to take some of that spot too as well. So,
I don't think there's,
do what?
I've been seeing some of the long-haired goats come in for that too.
Oh, really? The hair sheep's I've seen hair sheep expand. They're up like 10% here in Oklahoma, and it's all hair sheep because there's not wool sheep here in Oklahoma. Yes, sir.
What's the state head count
For goats, it's right at 90,000
for Oklahoma?
for Oklahoma, and we're ranked 3rd in the United States. So, Texas is 780,000, Tennessee's 110,000, and we're then they're at 90.
protection for producers isn't the same for goats as it is for beef production. So you got a lot of people get on a rough time and they don't have the protection, so they get out.
Protection, what do you mean by protection?
Insurance programs for excessive costs for food and
I'm eligible for every insurance program the cattle are.
for goats.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep, that's what a lot. See, I made that comment this morning. Most goat producers don't understand that the same programs that are available for cattle, it's livestock production. They're not cattle programs. The livestock forage disaster program, for example, that's a drought program. You get paid same as you have to 4 goats equal 1 cow. You don't get paid on the same scale, but still, that's the livestock indemnity program is there for us.
Don't you have time? You have to prove you've done it for
No.
for longer periods of time?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Is that all under the NCRS?
U.S. Farm Service Agency, FSA, not same building, just different.
different department?
Usually you go in the front door and NRCS is on the left and FSA is on the right. At least here in 3 counties that I work in. So yeah, we're eligible. It's just most people don't understand. Again, most people that raise goats probably don't even know they have a USDA office available. So, and those guys. Now, I'm not saying that they might not know what you're talking about, but every program that the USDA does is targeted to livestock, not and goats are considered livestock.
How many chickens equal 1 cow?
Nah, don't ask me. Actually, chickens are in that program for pasture-raised poultry. Don't get me started on that. Okay. For those of you interested, we are doing a poultry conference in 2 weeks. So let's talk a little bit about volatility. I kind of showed you a little bit of that volatility. The price moves, and there's different price patterns. Move week to week. The thing that most producers have a hard time kind of understanding is markets can be affected by a myriad of different happenings. Okay, and now here in Oklahoma, our sales are once every 2 weeks. There's a lot of things, a lot of stuff can happen in 2 weeks. Okay? For those of you who wasn't raising cattle back in 03, I believe it was, you ever remember the story about the cow that stole Christmas? They showed up with BSE and prices just plunged. That was one day. Goats, anything can happen. Good news, bad news. We go to war with the Middle East, so all of a sudden anti-Muslim, something happens. Good weather, bad weather. All of a sudden, consider, it's icy between here and Chickasha, which is where I sell my goats. I can't get there, or even worse, the buyer can't get there. Now, Chickasha, I'm taking it, the buyer's there, I'm taking it straight to the buyer. But if I'm going to a sale, I get there, but the buyer doesn't get there. There's one less buyer. Now, love them or hate them, the buyer's job is to buy those goats as cheap as they can buy them. So if there's nobody pushing them, they'll buy them cheap. Unusually large or small numbers available for sale. Okay, certain buyers don't show up. New buyer, have you ever been to or seen a sale where it was really hot because some new buyer showed up, but he wasn't there the next time? Prices went right back to where they were. So that's the thing that we all got to kind of understand is there's all kinds of things can happen, and a lot of things we can't plan or predict. So I always tell people, worry about what you can control and not worry about what you can't control. So.
How big does the population of goats have to be when they will start being traded on the Chicago mercantile?
He asked how big the goats need to be before we start trading them on Chicago mercantile exchange, and we're never going to get there.
Predict prices better that way.
Yeah, I know, but we're never going to get there.
Buy futures on.
Yeah, no, that's never going to get there. So
What's never? I mean,
never.
are we double in
And yeah, just never. I mean, there's just no way we'll ever get there.
Are there any world markets that
Wool markets?
world markets?
World markets? No, not that I'm aware of. Okay, when we talk about market volatility, what I did here is, and this is 16, and I'll show you 17. This is the week-to-week price movements, and you can kind of see here. You know, there's sometimes prices can move $10 to $12 a hundredweight in 1 week, or one from sale to sale. And there's time here. That's 4th of July week happened right there. And see, before 4th of July, you were selling at $2.50 a pound, so you thought, oh right, $2.50 a pound. I'm going to market next time, and you get there and it's $2.15.
What is 4th of July?
Everybody's having a pig roast.
Well, don't know. I can't tell you what happened that time. What I'm telling you is that's how quick the market can move. Okay, there's volatility. When we look at 17. You know, again, the 4th of July movement wasn't there this year, okay? But what I want to show you is the movements can happen, and when you put them together, you can kind of see the bigger movements kind of have a tendency to happen in the fall, maybe a little bit. Or you see, you got to be just real careful. Like I said, I'm going to trip over this. But you got to kind of think about this and volatility and just realize, especially when markets at 2 weeks. I sell directly to a meat locker that buys in Chickasha, but it's every 2 weeks. And so 1 week, prices may be good. The next week, he may not have those same orders he's got. And that's a chance I have to take because he does not report his prices before I show up. He reports them when he writes it on the ticket.
$3 a pound.
So
That guy, I know, I've heard that.
he does. I tried to get him to come talk to y'all. The meet, he doesn't like talking in front of groups, and so he's like, no. He goes, you tell them about me. I was like, gotcha. So let's talk about where to sell. Okay, the easiest place that we can sell goats in is livestock auctions. Okay, that's pretty simple. We drive up, we jump our goats out, we turn around, we drive home. Right? So we don't have to worry about the money because that livestock barn is bonded. You're not going to collect a bag check. If you can actually sit around nowadays and watch your goat sell, and about 30 minutes after your goat sale, you'll take a check home. So you can get your money that day.
What's commission with the
Commissions change. It depends on barn to barn. It's anywhere from $5 to $12 a head.
Okay.
It's a big.
It's not a percentage.
No, it's not a percentage. It's $1 per head. You got to pay that commission. Like I said, it's $5 to $12. So if I'm going to sell off the farm, I'm ahead $5 to $10. I can take a little less. You see what I'm saying? And these are things you need to know. You're at the mercy of the market that day. Okay, you've jumped out 30 goats. I've jumped out that 30 head of goats. I've watched them go in the ring. They're coming to the ring. They're not bringing the price I want. Do I buy them back?
No.
Shoot, no, I don't buy them back. I let them go. So I'm at the mercy of the market. I'm not going to load them back up. And okay, when I take those goats to that market, you think they announce these goats are, the Rockin' Double J Boer goats are the best goats in the world? No. I mean, if I keep going to that sale over and over and over again, the buyers might get around to finally recognizing my goats, but I don't sell goats but about 2 or 3 times a year at most. And so I may not receive the best price for my goats. They're goats going through the market and they're going to get what I get. So, but if I go off the farm, I can, you show up to my place, the first question out of your mouth is how much? I get to set the price. Now that price is always negotiable. I know that starting up front, so I usually go higher. So I know how that game works. But I can receive the price I want. I have to deal with the public. Thank goodness that they created the DVR so I can hit pause or records, because no doubts that there's somebody show up to my house when either OSU, which I don't need to watch OSU play football this year, but OSU is kicked off, and I finally get to see, they're finally on TV, you know, and I get to watch them, and some guy's showing up to buy goats. Remember, I'm selling show goats, okay? They show up to buy goats, and we show them every goat on the farm, because they got to see mom and dad. Not that I don't know what they can tell by looking at mom and dad, but they got to see mom and dad and look at every goat. And then what's the last thing I hear from them? Let me think about it. I'll be back. And then they've been there for 2.5, 3 hours, and they buy nothing. Yeah.
If they're coming in off another farm too, there's considerable.
There's
biosecurity.
There's biosecurity issues.
If they come in pulling a trailer, you got a better chance.
Yeah, that don't always work either. But now, also deal with the public. I've talked about my stepdad. He loved for people to show up. He would love for you to spend 3 hours and not spend a dime. Okay? Well, eventually, but he just loved to talk to folks. And I obviously I like to talk to the public because I talk to people like you all the time. But sometimes it's inconvenient, and that could be a plus or minus. I don't have to pay commission. Okay? I have no check off to pay. I don't have nothing. I just, whatever price I get. Directly to the order buyers or processors. Like I said, that's not an option for everybody. We are lucky enough here in Oklahoma. The Chickasha Meat Company buys the first and third Saturday of every month. So all I got to do is drive over there, wait in line for an hour and a half, unload goats. I don't know the price I'm going to receive until he writes it down on the ticket as he's weighing the goats. Again, I'm going to tell, I can't remember the guy's name now. It's Hans or something like that. He's from Denmark, Holland, Sweden. And tell him, no, load the goats back up on my trailer that's already halfway back around the block. No, probably not. So, but that's an option that I have. It's an option that I've weighed out and said it works for me. But that's what, I can do. But the thing I need to know when I show up what my goat is worth and what he weighs. Have an idea. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I can miss a chicken weight by 10 pounds. Okay, some of y'all got that. Chickens don't weigh 10 pounds, okay? So goats, you need to kind of have an idea what their weights are and know what you're going to, and know what they're worth. There's no commissions either. I can choose, if I'm going to sell replacement animals, I can do these producer sales where I take, replacement does and bucks. Typically, I can receive some really good money, but they're usually for seed stock producers, not for commercial guys. And they're higher commission costs as well. They're usually, 15% is not unusual for those. Online auctions, this is kind of a new thing. I haven't seen it open up for the commercial side of it yet. Okay? But it could be coming, they do it on the cattle. Superior does it every week or every other week. Maybe it's every month. Anyway, Superior's been doing it forever.
Is the bid open for just a day or a week or?
It's open. It's a one-day sale, at night, a certain time frame. It's just like an auction. They just have a video running across they have, run sold, done. Now, the new online auctions for goats, if y'all seen those, these are open all day long. It's kind of like eBay. You don't want to bid till it goes to closing at 7 o'clock at night. Okay, you can, but you're going to get outbid. Sniping, I believe, is what they called it on eBay, wasn't it? You go in and snipe that bid. But this is an opportunity that nobody has really explored yet, but it could be coming. The online auctions for the purebred and show side of it are huge. About 4 years ago, we had a guy here in Oklahoma. He's the owner-operator of OklahomaShowGoats.com, and they were doing, I think he told me 83 auctions that year, and I think the last time I talked to him, he was over 200 auctions a year, what he's doing. So, and he sees this as a viable market for commercial guys, but you've got to get huge numbers available. You can't sell 5, 10 head like they're doing right now. So, but Google. But that's, the show goat thing, you can probably just Google online goat sales. And like I said, you got Oklahoma Show Goats. There's 2 or 3 other places that are doing these online auctions.
What does a show goat go for versus the average goat?
What does a show goat go for an average goat? There is no, here's the deal. I've seen them go for as high as $10,000. I've seen them go as cheap as $500. It's depending on what market you're selling in. And if you can look that little kid in the face and ask for $10,000. Usually you're not asking the kid at that point in time, you're asking mom and dad. And so, but, they'll pay for it. So, but like I said, the quality, you have to have the quality there. So that takes, and I will tell you, those folks of who thinking about the show goat side of this on the marketing, you really have to be a really good marketer. Okay, this is not and it takes years to build that reputation up, and you have to be willing to eat a little bit at that first, eat those, because you're not going to sell that first goat for $1,000. You're going to sell that one for $300 and hope the kid feeds it, does well, and comes back. And so I've suffered through this, and marketing, that side of the market, that's a different marketing than what I'm talking about here. That marketing is the talking to people, shaking their hands, tell them how good they are, that kind of marketing. I'm a little too blunt, so. Yeah.
There's some producers that have annual field days too, and then they invite people in and speakers, and then they have an auction with an online feature too, a Skype, and they're really leveraging.
Right. And again, that's more of the purebred seed stock people, yeah. So, market availability, again, that's been a problem. Here in Oklahoma, we did a survey to find out all the auction barns that sold goats. We did that before we could get it published. 5 of those auctions went out of business. I mean, and 5 more opened up in its place, but different locations. So people all the time are asking me, where do you sell goats? And I always tell folks, I said, the best thing you can do is just kind of get out there. Most goat producers know where they are. But like here right now in Ada, Oklahoma, I have Maud, that's once a week. I have Overbrook, that's once a month. I have Chickasha, that's twice a month. I think Durant went out of business, last I heard. So I know the 3 sales. Now, Perry was another sale, 2 hours away. They burned down, now they're doing Pawnee. You see what I'm saying? It's a challenge. It's hard to stay. And used to, when I got in this business, Perkins, Oklahoma was the biggest and baddest sale in Oklahoma, and it went out of business. So, I mean, it's something I'm gonna know. Not every livestock market sells goats. That's what most goat producers get really, really mad because their local livestock barn will not sell goats. Go look at that barn before you start getting mad. And honestly ask yourself, would my goat stay in that barn? Because most of those pipe fencing, they don't want to chase goats down the road, and they don't want to spend the money to make it goat proof. So don't get too mad at them. Not every goat sells a viable market. Okay, before I sold anything, I would dang sure go down there a couple of different times, watch them sell, see who's buying, how many buyers I can pick out of the sale. Okay, talk to people who've sold there. Okay, some markets are not very stable. They're 1 year, gone the next. We've talked about that. So in conclusion, the first thing I'm going to tell you is when we talk about marketing, and we got to match our marketing plan up with our production schedule, our resources. Okay. If you don't get anything out of this talk, that's the one thing I hope you get. There are seasonal price patterns for goats. Patterns are going to differ for the type of goat sold and the location. You need to be aware of those differences. Again, for those of you who are not from Oklahoma, I've kind of talked about Oklahoma. I'm not saying it's completely different, but there are going to be some differences. Be aware of those differences. Prices seem to be a little more volatile in the spring and then in the fall. I said that wrong a while ago when I said I think fall and spring, but everything that shows me seems to be a little more volatile, but that makes a little more sense because the number of goats are kind of limited, so makes a little more sense. So be aware of that. There's very limited knowledge about goat market availability. Again, you asked me where I can sell my goats here in Oklahoma, and I've told you where we can here in Oklahoma, but a month from now that might change. That's what you got to keep up with. There's other marketing opportunities, producer organizations, online, etc. I say producer organizations. There was a group over in Tahlequah, Oklahoma at one point in time that were trying to get groups of goat and sheep producers to come together and put load lot sizes together. It worked for about a year or two, then it fell apart. But if you can find those opportunities, not too long after we started doing goat camps, or as we started doing goat camps, I got involved. Some people brought me in. They wanted to start a goat cooperative here in Oklahoma. And we brought in people from Panhandle all the way, to southeast Oklahoma. It didn't last very long because we couldn't get 4 people to agree. Is it 8-person group, and we couldn't get half of them to agree with the other half, so it didn't last very long. But those options still may be out there available and then may come along.